What's up, YouTube? We're gonna check out these DMD stones, resin bonded stones, under the microscope to look for grit contamination. These still haven't been lapped. They've only had that one sharpening of the video I just posted, and that's it. So let's see what they look like. Let's look for any heavy grit contamination. Judging by the scratch pattern on the knife, I'm going to say there's not any. Let's get this focused the best we can. Right there, that looks good. I'll tell you what, these are very, very high concentration resin stones. There's a lot of diamond in these stones. Not seeing nothing that really stands out. Everything looks pretty uniform. And maybe there's one that's slightly bigger than, not much. That's close. I don't even know if I could really consider that grit contamination, to be honest. It's pretty close. There's a piece. It's a little bigger than, that's all we're gonna see. That's really good. Like I said, going by the scratch pattern, I really didn't see nothing that stood out as any, definitely larger than the rest scratches. It was pretty damn good. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. That was the 1K. Let's look at the Mr. 3K. Yeah, this stone has a little bit of contamination. Is that an inclusion or a bunch of diamonds? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, there's definitely some grit contamination in the 3K. As you can see, there. Yeah, this stone definitely has some contamination. Which is probably why the scratch pattern, when I'm saying like they're not true to grit, that's why. That grit, the stones definitely feel like they're overrated as far as grit, and this is why. I bet you the 1K didn't have none, but I bet you every other stone does, and that's why they're gonna feel like they're overrated. Okay. Yeah, now see what I am noticing, if you look, the grit contamination is all about the same size. You see your typical diamonds, and then the pieces that are clearly larger, they're all about the same. Like right here, for example. This one's the biggest, but they're all about the same. and that goes for anywhere on here. If you find it, they're all about the same size. Now that's a pretty big boy there. But they left a really consistent scratch pattern. You know, this damn microscope is just not that good. I wish I could see better. There's definitely some grit contamination there. Here's the 6K. Yeah, we definitely got some contamination going on. Turn down the light. Getting in there as far as we can. Yeah, that's exactly why they're acting not true to grit. However, for the money, they're still a good set of stones. Here's the 12K. I'm not seeing no real grit contamination in the 12K. That's exactly why when I got to the 6K stone and I said this is not a 6K scratch pattern, I got it. That's why. There's enough contamination that it's making it act like a lower grit stone, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Because personally, that's too high a grit anyways. For EDC knives, that is. This set is still fully capable of doing a bright mirror. There's a piece of grit contamination. The first piece I found on the 12K though. Just don't look at this set as a 1,000 to 12,000. Look at this set as a 1,000, or about a 700, 2,000, 3,000, 6,000, and you'll have a much more realistic idea of how these stones are going to perform for you. As you've seen in the video I did with the knife, there was no excessively deep gouges or anything. The scratch pattern looks very consistent. That's because the grit contamination is consistent. So the size of the grit, the pieces of diamond that are in the stone that are contaminated and bigger than the pieces that should be in the stone, the bigger pieces are all consistent. So yeah, these stones are just graded wrong. Yeah, look at it from about a 700 to about like a Veneve F1200, 6,000. That's gonna put you pretty close to what the actual finish is like. You're gonna have grit contamination to some extent in everything. For $50 for these 4 stones with as thick as the resin is, these are gonna last you a long time. They cut quickly, and if you want mirrored edges, they're absolutely capable of doing it. Personally, I find that this to be a very good deal. Grit contamination or not. Now, if the grit contamination was inconsistent, then that would be a problem, because then you'd have random deep gouges. But as you've seen in the sharpening, we had none of that, and that's because there's quite a bit of grit contamination, but the contamination is consistently sized. We're just going to do this just to show you how much grit contamination is in a Veneve stone. Now let's just grab one of these. And this would be a 1200. We're going to do a F800 and F1200. We'll do the 800 first. Gotta get this bad boy focused. Hold on. Let me back out a little bit. That's getting too magnified and it's not clear. Okay. Like I said, you're gonna find grit contamination to some extent in every stone. Like, perfect example right there. This is all your average diamond size. Look at that big piece right there. You're gonna have it in all resin stones. Is gonna have it no matter what you do. I don't care who you buy it from. They're all gonna have it to some extent. Like, look at that. Like, it's just, you're never gonna have a perfect size stone. Like, right there's a piece, right there's a piece. You see your average size stones, and then you got bang, big piece, big piece. You're gonna have it in all stones to some extent. That's just the way it is. So there's a honking one right there. And this is kind of the standards, your Veneve stones. This is the 1200 grit side, F1200. That's just an inclusion. But as you can see, Look at the size discrepancy between the diamonds. There's a piece, 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 so on and so forth. You're gonna have contamination. So don't automatically discount those stones just because of what I just said, because it's gonna exist in everyone to some extent. What matters is how bad it is and how big. You know, if you have say in a 2-3 micron stone, if you have pieces that run between 2 and 5 microns, it's not going to really create an issue. Which is probably, they say it's a 2-3 micron stone, but realistically say 2 to 5. You know, so your 2 micron pieces are going to be like this, and here would be like a 5 micron piece. So, and that, that's going to be throughout the stone. Now, if you had, say, a 20 micron piece, a couple 20 micron pieces in here, that would be an issue. Because those are going to cause gouges. But as long as it's, relatively consistent and the grit contamination is not drastically larger, it's not really a problem. Because they all have it. Yeah, I'm going to say DMD did a good job. Those stones are absolutely worth $50 for the set. You're paying what, $12.50 each? Absolute value. If you want a set, I suggest you buy them, because I have no doubt those are going to sell out quickly. They perform good, and they are absolutely worth the money. Yeah, if you want a set, I wouldn't wait. But yeah. Good job, DMD. They're worth the money. Nobody can complain at that. That's a value for $50. Like I said, you want them, go get them, because they're going to be gone. All right, guys.